The year is ending and soon we'll be celebrating 2025, but first we want to take a moment to remember all that's happened this year and talk about where we're headed. My name's Tom Matthews, and on this episode of The Buzz, I'll be talking to the city manager to recap 2024 and find out what's in store for the next year. All right, Mr. Manager, a lot has happened this past year. It's coming to a close. We're going to take a look back at it. I also want to talk about what's to come in the next year, but first things first, what are some of the things that stand out to you that happened this year?
I mean, there's been a lot of great stuff happening this year. We put forward the policy around 25-mile-an-hour zones. I think that was important for the city, and we've been able to achieve that. There's been a number of policies that we have adopted in the previous year, in 2023, within my first year in the role, we need to implement. And that comes to a place where we have to put a lot of the effort to getting these policies and procedures in place, technologies in place, and make sure that these policies and these ordinances are fully implemented. So it's been a year of action, but also look at ways in which we can continue enhancing and adopting new policies. And this year we've had tragic moments in our city related to road users. And this policy is one of those very important policies that sets the tone, starts to shift the culture of the way we redesign and we build our streets, and we make sure that our community is safe.
And even kind of looking back, there's a lot of policies that you mentioned got passed through in your first year as city manager, but aren't coming into effect till 2024, such as like specialized stretch code, inclusionary zoning, specialized stretch code, ADUs. All three of them were adopted in 2023. But now we got to implement them. We got to make sure that the departments are doing their piece to hold developers accountable, making sure that developers know what the policies are and how they need to be building and producing, whether it's housing or buildings here in our community, commercial buildings. A policy that's been, was debated quite a bit, and what we were able to adopt this year was actually rental registry. And rental registry has been extremely important for the city, because rental registry, it speaks to the safety of our residents, people in our units that are renting in our community. And this allows another way for us to utilize policies to help protect and support our community in an area that allows them to understand the importance of their rights and their protections as a tenant here in our community. All right, and so looking back, there's a lot of policy, a lot of work. How do you kind of take a step back and prioritize this work and figure out, like, how do we actually get this done?
Listening to community feedback, listening to the council, conversation in the council, even in the council floor. All of that gives you perspective. And we did that as part of the strategic planning process. We wanted to create a strategic plan that designed a roadmap with a set priorities and goals and objectives that we as a city need to know, okay, this is the direction that we're going into. This is the work that we need to do. This is the time frame that we have to achieve these things. And let's hold ourselves accountable to measure that time after time and make sure that we are communicating that to the public so they see the progress in terms of our ability to implement this work. Because the public wants to see impact. There's a lot of these policies are great. A lot of these programs and initiatives are great, but what's the impact? What's the impact to the residents? What's the impact to the business owners? What's the impact to the visitors? We need to be able to communicate that with the strategic plan. And there's a lot of great work there that will start to show the strength of our community and the strength of our administration.
All right, and so there's a lot of work also that takes place that maybe isn't policy, that departments are working on, that you're enacting. Looking back in 2024, what's some of the work and programming that sticks out to you?
We talked a lot about trying to get the community to be more civically engaged and have access to engage with municipal government. And most often, a typical resident of the city is engaged through a request to fix a pothole, to fix a street, fixing a pole that fell on their yard. And that's one way for them to be civically engaged. And so that has allowed us to create the 311 Customer Service Center, introduce the 311 app, even changing the number to 311. Easier for people to remember, retain. And this has been a work in progress for us. We've been building and growing it as much as possible. We're introducing chatbots into the mix. We want people to connect and be able to send a picture of a pothole and say, hey, well, this needs to get addressed, a water leak, et cetera, et cetera. So these are programs and initiatives that we've been able to launch and put forward that helps the residents continue to connect with the municipal government.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on this for a minute because I think this is a really, really great program that the city has presented, and I think folks really want people to know about it. But the 311 Worcester Customer Service Center, how did this idea come about, and what does it mean for folks?
I mean, this idea goes back many, many years. When I was working in the Office of Innovation, there was a lot of requests that people were making, but we as a city requiring residents to call, and the number was 508-929-1300.
Got it memorized.
Yeah, I know it from my mind. Many, many years. People can email the customer service department. And the customer service department was primarily housed on the DPW. We saw that the department organically started to evolve. And it started taking complaints and issues related to inspectional services, quality of life stuff, police related or fire related or other elements and inspectional services, etc. So there were so many things that they were dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And through research of other communities and see what other communities were doing across the nation, people had shifted to this 311 number and introduce technology as a way to engage. And that's one way to also engage young people, is utilizing technology, making things a little bit more streamlined, getting folks connected to devices that they use on a day-to-day basis. 311 really evolved through trying to connect people to municipal government in a more faster, more accessible way. And that took its shape, and through the years we were able to work through it and build a system, build a program that we then shifted the department out of DPW, centralized it in with the 911 dispatch center as the call center of the city, and then strengthen it by providing the resources and the branding and changing the name and adding applications and everything that they need to do their work effectively and efficiently.
All right, shifting gears here, looking toward the future, 2025. If we can believe it or not, it's going to be here soon. So, what are you looking forward to in the next year?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we want to accomplish in the next year. One thing that that's been at top of mind is the Dade Resource Center. Work with the community to identify a location and support the development of a Dade Resource Center. We need it as a community. It goes a long way to support our unhoused population, and I think it's going to be a place of resource or refuge for folks where they can have access to information, resources, but a place that they need to go shower, they need to use the bathroom, etc., use a computer, I think would be extremely important. This year, as part of the 25-mile zone, we're going to be doing some safety enhancements to our road infrastructure. We're going to implement new ways in which we can not only communicate through signage and campaigns, etc., but we're going to actually do more permanent speed humps. We're going to do rapid flashing beacons. We're going to do more of those safety elements that is going to help to reduce fatal crashes and those serious crashes that we've experienced in the city. We have an almost fully staffed DI office. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what the office is going to be able to produce and take on and start to move forward. We've been doing a lot of stuff here internally as a city. We haven't just been sitting and waiting for the equity officer in the office to get going, but this is going to help us strengthen everything and help us strengthen our work around DEI for the city. I'm hoping that we start the process on Mill Street, the redesigning on Mill Street, and start the planning process there. We have some initial dollars, federal dollars, that's going to support that. And so we want to start that planning process with community members and the residents of that neighborhood as we start to look at the future of Mill Street. In 2023, we built a housing strategy that we then applied to the state for a housing production plan. And we're looking to implement that and start to work on that in 2025. That housing production plan would identify what are the areas that we need to bring more development to, whether there's senior housing, whether there's more affordable units, what type of affordable units, where, accessibility, more accessible units, etc. So that will give us a picture of the areas, and that gives us the opportunity to negotiate and find the developers that can build these types of homes for our residents of our community. So a lot of this is identified in the actual strategic plan that's going to kind of guide us over the next 5 years. But this first year, we'll start to tackle a lot of these plans that I've identified before.
Anything else you want to mention here as we're closing out the year?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important for anything that we do is important that people get engaged. So stay connected. Follow us along on the buzz. Read the Substack, all the information that we put out. We spend a lot of time to make sure that we inform you and you're informed of that. And then at the end of the day, I want to thank you for the work that you do. Continue supporting our small businesses, continue supporting our local shops here in the city, shop local, go to local restaurants. And they rely on all of our investments here in this city so that they can continue to drive the economy of this great city. But at the end, it all comes down to you. It all comes down to you too, as a resident, as the homeowner, as a person who's visiting the city. It comes down to your work, your support, and your engagement in our municipal government in our beautiful city of Worcester. So I thank you for everything that you've done this year, and I continue to look forward for the next year in our work together.
All right, well said. Thank you for giving us a look back at 2024 and a look into what's to come in the future. Thank you for tuning in. As always, make sure to give us a follow on social media. Head on over to worcesterma.gov to find out everything else that's happened in the city.